Hello friends, family and other creatures of the sea, and welcome back to another high-level game of StarCraft 2. Today here in the top right, spawning as the blue Terran player playing for Team Psystorm Gaming, it is Gumiho. And in the bottom left, spawning as the red Zerg player playing for Team Africa, StarCraft 2, it is Armani. Now, the beauty here with Armani is that he's a player that can play a lot of different styles himself. I've seen him go into heavy Link Bane stuff. I enjoy his Mutalisk play often. I think his Mutalisk play is one of the better things he does, more so than his Link Lurker, as he tends to lack a little bit in the creep spread. And if you open up with heavy Link Bane start, creep spread is a little more important than it tends to be with those Mutalisk openers. Now, that being said, Gumiho is an interesting opening player usually, so I like to pay attention to his opening here, and we see already a bit of a variation to what we usually see. This is an 18 gas, and that usually leads into some initial marine production, trying to catch an overlord, and a factory that is not necessarily delayed, but it's not super fast either. Oh, you're gonna get that CC before the orbital. Okay. This is a really cool build order. I've not seen this build order before, to be quite honest. So it gets one more SCV. Oh. This looks really, really cool, actually. Now, he's not playing this with an SCV scout whatsoever. He's going to need to get 2-3 Marines in order to afford that faster factory. What was the timing on the factory here, then? A really quick second gas. Okay, I'm kind of confused by this build order, but I like it as well. So factory will go down to 14, to 11, to 12. That's pretty quick. So this build, what it does, it cuts the early game Reaper, and it also doesn't have the Marine count of an early reactor. Like, let's not beat around the bush here. Usually when you open up with a Marine into reactor, you're going to get way more Marines. Every Marine you produce before the reactor is basically one Marine you're cutting on later on in the build, right? Because Marine timing remains the same. If you open up with a reactor first and you do 2 Marine cycles, you'll have 4 Marines. However, if you open up with 2 Marines, then get a reactor, you'll still only have 2 Marines after 2 Marine cycles, and you'll also have, of course, that reactor. So it simply is worse for the Marine count, but perhaps it is a lot better here for the eco, as this orbital on the natural is going to be pretty quick. You're going to get that fast boost. You went for a fast secondary gas as well, which I guess you can easily afford with this build order. And now I'm so curious to see what his follow-up is going to be. So we do see somewhat of a transition into those Hellions, but just on the single Hellion production, no factory moving towards a reactor as of yet. We actually have a tech lab being built on that reactor. This has some huge fusion core vibes to me, honestly. This feels like there will be a fusion core in play relatively quickly. We see the third gas going out. This might even be a second starport. You know what? It wouldn't surprise me if we'd see a second starport here. Medevac as an opener. Okay, now we're... Okay, fusion core in the far right. I think this might just get spotted by Armani, though. These 4 Marines, not quite enough damage output to completely deny it, and the fusion core will get spotted. It got clicked on as well, if I'm not mistaken. So Armani will be ready for any potential battlecruisers. Third gas is already done. It's not like Gumiho can easily transition out of this at this point. Third gas before 3rd CC obviously would be absolutely terrible for any normal build order. The depots are already being built as well, so yeah, getting out of this is not really viable, I think. I'm just curious to see what the follow-up will be. Will we see some type of faster CC? This build is tight, by the way. Look at that gas income. Perfect. Battlecruiser can start the moment the fusion core finishes up. What is the follow-up here? I am so darn curious. Will we see a fast 3rd CC with this? Are we going to see a tank being constructed out of this factory? Or will this factory piss off and a second starport being built? No. Command center in the wall right now. We have a bunch of Marines being dropped here towards the 4th base as a potential deny on a drone. Tank! He's actually building a tank. Now, my confusion here is just that you're lacking any type of aggression. No, he's cancelling the tank. You're lacking any type of aggression with that initial battlecruiser. Usually you'll have a lot of Hellions with that, but that's not going to be the case here because there's only 2 Hellions. Usually you have 10, 12 Hellions. You can do a lot of, you know, put on some real pressure. It's not going to be the case right now. There's only 7 queens, and I'm surprised that Armani is cutting queens, as that is the one unit that is an absolute necessity to deal with this, I would say. 4, 5 overlords on the way. Are roaches here Is he gonna get roaches against this already? There's a lot of overlords. There's a lot of supply space right now. Spire is being constructed in the natural. Queen slightly out of position in the main. These 4 queens will move their way into the natural. And usually this type of move would be detrimental for Armani, as it would leave his 3rd base completely open. But because, I mean, well, the Hellion count of 2, 6, 7 Marines, there's just not going to be enough pressure to force out more units. We do see a couple of roaches being built right now, but if there was 8, 10 Hellions with this, these drones would have all been fried. And I feel like this position would have been a whole lot better. There's triple factories out already at this point. The battlecruiser count is going to quickly start growing right now. 4th base still has not been started. And I think we might just get a Corruptor Roach push out of Armani. Of course, quite popular to play this against mech openers. If the Corruptor Roach push does not do what you wanted to do, you can always transition into Ravagerling Bane from there. You have those Corruptors to deal with the battlecruisers. So it's not the end of the world, but obviously if you're going for some type of heavy aggression, often you do want to deal a fair amount of damage. These 4 cars are going to move in. 3 drones get sniped. A couple of lings will also fall. Hellions remain well, a bit of a forward posturing here out of the Korean Terran player. He tanks a couple more hits on this first battlecruiser. 2nd battlecruiser should not blink across the map as the Spire has finished up. I do believe that Gumiho is aware that there was a Spire building. So if this bad boy flies across the map, I'm going to be, well, quite shocked, to be frank. We don't have a single Corruptor in production yet. Okay, here they come. 8 Corruptors at the same time. Gumiho's supply is looking pretty healthy, by the way. His production was very fast. He has a decent tank count at 2 already. And this is before any type of aggression will ever arrive, right? So 3 tanks, having that out already. Usually 4 or 5 tanks is kind of that number that you want, that sweet spot. Once you get 4 or 5 tanks, I don't think Azure can very easily push into this anymore. More with a Roach Corruptor with the Roach Corruptor force. Corruptors, of course, are an absolute necessity to deal with battlecruisers. Queen count remains low at only 7. Single Evo chamber to increase the amount of units that are out for Armani, and especially the amount of Ravagers, of course, and Corruptors. But I'm not so sure if this is really going to work. The drone count is low. Lots of units are being built. Supply capacity is being increased by these 6 overlords that we're seeing in the production tab currently. There's no hive on the way. There's no extra drones either. And Gumiho, once he catches wind of this, I think if he gets a scan either on the 4th base or just on this main base, I mean, he can just fortify this position. He already is fortifying this position. He knows all he needs to do is survive at this point. That's really what he's going for. This barracks tanking the first shot. Beautiful play. Using a barracks to tank. Loses 1 battlecruiser nonetheless, though. 3 Corruptors will go down. These PCs will go home. I don't think Armani can attack into this. There's just too many tanks right here. Turrets are still fighting as well. I don't think these Corruptors, can they dive? Can they actually dive? Well, turrets are properly positioned, but the Corruptors say, well, we don't really care. Lots of repair on this battlecruiser, but it will still fall. 3 battlecruisers go down, and I think only 3 or 4... Okay, 6 Corruptors against 3 battlecruisers. That's still a fantastic trade. All pressure right now is gone. These Corruptors have, basically free game here in the main base. We'll try to go for these armories, and once that Super Corruptor peak comes out, these armories will fall. 1-1 will finish in time. 2 armories is quite expensive if they will go down. Perhaps these Marines can come in with a save. This is so expensive for repair-wise, by the way. Not only the repairing cost, but also the fact that you're not mining for such a long time. Might have actually been better to just let them die at this point. Although I'm not... Yeah, maybe. Actually, it's pretty close, I think. Especially considering the lost mining time is just really, really large. Corruptor's still alive as well, so... Single battlecruiser will not ruin the future here for Armani. I'm surprised how well Armani did in that push. And not so much on the ground, but more in the air. This planetary is at a bit of a risk. Oh my god, what? Gumiho, not controlling his battlecruiser whatsoever, is going to tank every single bile shot with that bad boy. 10 HP remaining. Where are the Corruptors? Corruptors still here on the far right. If they move forward, I think he caught another bile, because as I was looking where the Corruptors were, the battlecruiser disappeared. Corruptors tried going in for the armory, but turrets there will deny that. I think Armani in a bit of a lead right now. Has a lot of creep on the map as well. Is taking a 5th base, 82 workers. Has a nice little bank as well. Just brilliant eco. Perhaps a bit late on the hive, and we can blame him for that, as there's been a lot of money in the bank for a very long time already. However, on the other hand, we also see Armani just putting on this constant aggression. Depots get raised here. These links, once they reach the tanks, might actually be annoying to deal with. 2 tanks will fall immediately. Another tank will get biled onto the high ground and will die. There's not that much more zoning coming out against these Ravagers right now, so 1 tank will need to start moving forward, but that will of course make it vulnerable as well for these potential biles. Yamato being used on a Ravager, not quite sure if that is a correct call or a waste. Once again, we have these Corruptors looking for some damage, are not going to end up finding it. 16 workers go down on the side of Gumiho, who's struggling to stay alive. And here comes the Swarm Host transition. This is something that we've recently seen that has just become a lot more popular. When the Corruptors do a good job at dealing with the air, or even when they don't. Sometimes we've seen it with just pure Queen, Roach, Ravager, Swarm Host. And the Queens as kind of that anti-air defense against these BCs. But you need a lot of Queens to deal with. 4 or 5 BCs, by the way. But that aside, it's just Swarm Host just has so much potential against mech. If you're caught out of position once as the Terran, if you don't have the Hellbats there to deal with the Locust, if you don't have the turrets, if you don't have the battlecruisers there to deal with them, you lose 4 or 5 tanks, it will just start snowballing. And don't forget that it's always free trades. These trades, you're basically, you're trying to stay alive, you're trying to win time, getting a massive army, and you're just going to be bleeding out units. The Swarm Host is an insanely efficient unit. First tank gets taken out exactly, well, just like I said, for free. Another tank gets taken out, a couple of Hellbats. I think 1 or 2 ended up going down there as well. But this, of course, is completely fine. It looked like a lot of Locusts went down, and a lot of Locusts did go down. Can you see that? No, it doesn't show up as a unit lost because it's free, of course. But yeah, it just doesn't cost anything, only time. So Gumiho right now is just preparing for a push. And hopefully, eventually, he'll be able to set up that push. Wants to deny a little bit of creep here. Did he just Yamato 2 Swarm Hosts? I think he might have. 1 Swarm Host. Battlecruiser will teleport back home. I like this continued Battlecruiser production, by the way, out of Gumiho. Interesting blink positions as well. Thors are now moving forward, and here comes the next Swarm Host wave. So, even though Armani was losing the fight in the middle, now this fight is looking poor for Gumiho. He's gonna end up losing 2 tanks. A couple of turrets being taken out as well. Orbital force to lift, and a lot of repair once again on that planetary. Roaches are dying quickly as well, though. Cyclones will lock onto this. This is a relatively mobile defensive squad with these Cyclones. Oh, tanks, Hellbats. Moving all through the biles. Not quite what you want if your name is Gumiho. Life is life sometimes. A couple of biles once again hitting. I'm surprised here that Gumiho is actually chasing this army this far back. Perhaps wants to get a scan out. Oh my god. He actually is just eating every single bile. He's trying to catch it like a man catching a grape with his mouth. Swarm Host, once again, Locust Wave available will mean that at least one of these tanks is going to fall, I do believe. First tank goes down. Second tank will also go down. There's still some tanking here from these Locusts as well, and that's absolutely huge, because that means that these Roaches and Ravagers will now be able to clean up this force, at least a large part of this force. I don't think these stores will be able to get back home on the low ground. No, you can't drop it on the low ground, is what Gumiho just learned. Loses a bunch of Thors there. Very poor trade for the Terran player here in this game, who already was struggling. Bank of Armani is just continuously growing, and at this point Gumiho really should not be trading anymore. He's not really outmining his opponent. He does not have a bank. He can't afford to lose units. He needs to stay defensive against the Swarm Host wave. He needs to catch the next Swarm Host wave. That is absolutely essential. He sees the Swarm Host, but he doesn't see it. And now these Locusts are moving in once again. There is a vulnerable tank. There's a lot of turrets here that will get taken out as well. So these tanks will fall. I mean, there's nothing else here really defensively. I'm surprised that Gumiho is this aggressive. Why is he building 6? 6 more Cyclones at the same time. I'm not so sure about this. Is that really the way? He's dealing a fair amount of damage here against the Roaches and Ravagers, which is obviously great. Battlecruisers, once again. He tanks so many hits. These battlecruisers don't have a Don't have a teleport anymore. 1 BC will go down. I think another battlecruiser might not be a bad call to get here. Biles are trying to rain down from the skies. Can't blame Armani for trying. Once again, Gumiho is just going to end up eating 1 or 2 Biles. Losing units where he really shouldn't be. Now, this Swarm Host wave, this is probably not a good Swarm Host wave. There really is nothing here of value to defend. And if Gumiho just micros his units, he really should well. If he had microed the reinforcement line there, I don't think he should have lost 3 Cyclones. We'll end up losing 3, might lose a factory. Nah, just a turret. Maybe get 1 factory burning. No, barely not burning. Very nice. This was a great defense for Gumiho. This was actually genuinely quite nice. Now, this BC might fall or barely stay alive. Burrow will not be successful. I think Transfuse might have actually been way more useful there rather than trying to burrow. Of course, Armani didn't know there was going to be a scan cast. Neural Parasite is also on the way. These Cyclones. Oh my god. They just walk into his own piles. Control this game from both players it's been a little bit iffy. Orbital has landed on this left side 5th base. At the same time, Swarmo's moving in towards what is the 3rd base. Are we going to see a lift here out of Gumiho? He will need to if you see some focus fire. No lift. Orbital Command gets taken out. 28 workers also will fall. The army, however, for Gumiho is looking kind of powerful. This is a big army. Huge. 16 Cyclones, 11 Hellions. There's a lot of roaches on the way. I wouldn't mind 1 or 2 infestors. There is pathogen already. I mean, a fungal would just be huge here. Hit 1 fungal, you kill, what, 5, 6 Cyclones for free. There is burrow as well already, I assume. Yep, burrow is here as well. Yeah, I saw the Queen's burrow. Huh. Yeah, I mean, it's not like there's infinite scans either, right? We have, what, 4 or 5? We have 3 orbital commands. That means that burrowed infestors are going to be hell to deal with. Tunneling Claws also being researched here. Cyclone's trading so well against these roaches, though. We have a single roach taking out the refinery on the right side. Where are them Swarm Hosts? Swarm Hosts are over here. We'll try to land this Locust Wave on this 5th base. Or what is now, I guess, the 4th base. We'll get it, but not too many SCVs will go down here. And of course, the Orbital can just fly back. That's exactly what Gumiho is going to end up doing. This base, however, will get taken out. And the drones also will get to escape. So similar trades here, but once again, Armani just in a way superior position. Right side base is going to get taken out by this BC if Armani isn't careful. There's still 5 queens on the map, but 1 Yamato can of course do a fair amount. Do you have any upgrades on these bad boys? No, no attack upgrades at least. Of course, the vehicle plating is helping greatly against these queens. There is +3 range attack, but yeah, the plating is massive. Actually huge. You really do see that. We often, by the way, see this type of blink. Rather than going back home, very often Gumiho will blink towards his army or to the other side of the map to do something aggressive. Army split coming out of the Terran as well right now, who's finally maxed, has a bit of a bank, and has denied a crap ton of creep, which means that these Swarmos are just a lot less useful than they were before. That is a big deal. Here come the Tunneling Claw roaches. Oh, Gumiho not paying attention. Not the greatest down burrow. Will be able to get a bunch of the Cyclones, but Cyclones honestly trading quite well. They're way better than I would have expected and way better than perhaps they should have. There is 5 infestors on the map, and they should be capable of catching this at some point. Here comes the burrow on the infestor. Scan gets cast. Gumiho now aware that the infestors are on the map. As a result, we'll try to go for a snipe. We'll get 1 infestor for a Cyclone. That's a good trade. If he can do that 4 more times, it's going to be a very happy camper. Roach is moving forward. Gumiho could see that on the map if he's paying attention, of course. It's a pretty obvious animation. Things moving underground. They don't go too deep underground, I guess, huh? You can see them quite easily. Swarmos once again moving forward as well. We still have this Cyclone army here on the right side. I'm not so sure if it's going to be capable of dealing with this though. Needs to respond quickly here. Gumiho. Yes, moves back. Tank on the high ground is helping out as well. These Cyclones will escape. Nice little SimCity there. Gumiho is just trying to deny this left side base. Armani actually struggling getting some money right now. We have another command center on the way. Orbital commands are still low in number, I believe. I think we're still at 3. That is correct. Ooh, big fungal hits. Once again, these biles, yeah, will connect. Gumiho just keep running into biles. And the actual units lost is in fate. What? is actually in favor of the Zerg. That is super crazy. That is insane. Yeah, that's really the power of the Swarm host, I guess. I like this burrow as well. You can just leave them there and continuously send these locusts. Just annoy these factories and maybe eventually even get to that tank if you really would want to. But for now I think this is a decent goal. Big fungals once again, hitting every single Cyclone. The Ravager count is very large as well. And this base is... This is a throwaway base, you know? You can lose this one if you kill a couple of units for this base. That's a great trade, because there's nothing here to mine except 500 gas. Because there's plenty of space for gases here on the bottom right side as well. It doesn't really seem that Armani is too focused on that. 49 larvae still on the bank as well. The army count, by the way, for the Zerg is very large. There's only 60 workers. I don't think that Armani can quite fight this. I wouldn't mind if this army just moves towards the right side here. Try to break that main base. Force the Cyclone army back. And then with some defensive fungals, some zoning fungals, perhaps get some damage done. Of course, you also still have these locusts that could come in for a flank. I think that's exactly what Armani is going to end up doing here. I do believe that is the correct call. Gumiho can't really go for a base trade because there's so many larvae. A huge fungal, or sorry, neural. Excuse me. We'll get that battlecruiser. That's big because there's no real anti-air here. Now, this tank on the high ground, if it can target down anything of these fungal guys, that would be huge. One fungal does go down. We still have these swarm hosts that could go for a locust flank, of course. This is the beauty of being burrowed. Gumiho completely unaware of the fact that there's a couple of bad boys burrowed there. Now, locusts are going to come out. This army will continue its rampage towards the left side. There's really nothing stopping Armani at this point from just taking out all of these bases. I guess the planetary might stop it. There's so many Ravagers. I think you can actually just bile this down really fast, no? Very effective. Biles is all beautiful. Exactly on the SCVs with that the damage output from the range upgrades as well is of course going to be hell to deal with here. Gumiho is bleeding out in units, bleeding out in money as well. His eco is, well, currently non-existent. His tank count soon will be non-existent. There's 16 Mutalisks on the way. So you have the late game Mutalisk transition here. 28 Mutalisk against, well, actually 18 Cyclones. A fungal is going to be a necessity in this case now. This actually might be kind of dangerous. That's all of the gas that Armani had. Is that worth it? Oh, he's gonna get a lot of... Yeah, 29. I mean, one Thor and all of these Cyclones really could make a difference, though. Oh, here come the Mutalisk, and they will... Oh my god, they take out every single Cyclone. There's +3 air attack already as well. GG gets called. Armani wins this 23-minute game here in 2K Atmosphere against Mech. Beautiful initial Roach Corruptor timing, taking out all of these battlecruisers. So vital for that mid-game of Swarm host pressure, which just dealt so much damage. Look at the unit lost once again. Zerg being a heading unit lost is something that is quite rare. Very cool game. Well played out of Armani. Glad to see him win against the Mech. That's going to be it for me today. Thanks all so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, don't forget to like button, subscribe to the channel. Hopefully I'll see all of you next time for a new video. Thank you, and bye-bye.